Class 10th, the main course reader book, First Flight, Chapter 3, Two Stories About Flying. This lesson is in two parts. Part 1, His First Flight, about a bird called seagull. Part 2, Black Aeroplane, about a black colored airplane. We begin with the first part, His First Flight by Liam O'Flaherty. Flaherty is an Irish novelist and a short story writer. His short stories are generally based around the animal kingdom, deriving important life lessons for human life. This story is about a large white grayish colored seabird called seagull. The theme of the lesson is facing your fears and moving ahead in life. Since this chapter is about a bird, you can take the theme as facing your fears, overcoming them, and then learning to fly and move ahead. This lesson is also going to talk about the importance of family and the way they stand by in your life, because they are the only people that are going to be by your side no matter what happens in life. So let's get started with the chapter. This story is about a young seagull. He lives in his family with his father, mother, two brothers and sisters. They are all learning to fly. The kids are being taught by the parents to start their first flights, and the two brothers and his sister had already flown away, leaving behind the little seagull, which was still to learn how to fly. So this story on a sunny day, and the seagull has made different attempts to fly. He ran towards the brink of the ledge and tried to flap his wing, but every time he did that, he was too afraid to take the step forward and lunge to fly. He was scared by the great expanse of sea beyond the ledge, and he knew that it was miles down below the place from where he was starting, and he was very sure that his wings would not be able to support him. He would fall down and sink and then die. So his fear was withholding him, and he was still trying very hard, but he could not make his first flight. So he just stuck inside his little hole and he slept there the whole night. The next morning, he could see his brothers and sisters flapping their wings. They ran towards the brink and they flapped their wings and they flew away. He saw them doing that, but he still could not muster up the courage to do it himself. He was so desperate to fly away, but he could not because he was too scared to do that. His father and his mother had come around making loud bird sounds and scolding him and threatening him to leave him hungry and starving, motivating him, but it was all in vain. He was too scared to move. He was not capable to make that first flight. This continued for an entire day, and then nobody was coming near him. He was watching his parents fine-tuning their brothers and sisters' flights, teaching them how to dive into the sea, teaching them how to hunt fish, teaching them how to move with the waves of the water in the ocean, how to rise, how to fall. They were perfecting their skills, which they had already learned. And this little seagull was still to make his first move, and he was just sitting there and watching them learn more and more. He was seeing his first brother catch a fish, and he saw him eating it, and the entire scene was a little infuriating for him because he was hungry and not able to hunt. The whole morning he could see the family walking on the plateau in front of him beyond the cliff, and they were teasing him and taunting him for his cowardice in a motivational manner. So that day the sun rose up and he was standing there on the ledge. He tried to pretend that he was sleeping there. He stood silently, motionless on one feet and closed his eyes, appearing to fall asleep. And he thought that maybe if he acted, the parents would come reaching to him that he might fall. But nobody came. So they didn't even notice him. And he again opened his eyes and he sees his family. His brothers were sleeping with their heads duck under their neck, and his father was sharpening and cleaning his feathers. They were all doing their job. Nobody was noticing him. That was even hurtful for this little seagull. His mother was standing right there with her breast pumped up, and she was having this little fish that she had hunted, and she was tearing that piece of fish. She was doing it just to show the little seagull and tease him into the motivation of flying himself and getting his own hunt. So the way he saw the food, little seagull was maddened with hunger, and he just loved to tear away the fish and devour it, but he couldn't because he could not fly right now and he could not dive in and get his fish. So he was hungry and the family was no more feeding him. So he was maddened with hunger. He started screaming in the bird sound, ga ga ga, begging his mother to come and give him the fish. But the mother was very stern and she screamed back, saying, "No, he won't get any food unless he hunts himself." So he keeps on persuading her, and suddenly his scream becomes joyous because he can see his mother flying towards him with the fish in her mouth, and he started doing this happy tapping dance standing there on the ledge because he knew that now he was going to get his food. But the mother was very smart. Just as she came near the little baby seagull, she stops, she flaps her wing, kind of telling him what to do, and she was almost within the reach of the seagull. He could just make a little dive and get the food in her beak, but she doesn't move any further. She just stops there and she flaps her wings, and the little seagull is very surprised and he's very angry and he's waiting for her to make that little movement so that he can reach for the food, but she doesn't. Maddened by the hunger, he just approaches the fish and he dives in. The moment he dives in, he was off the cliff and he was falling straight downward into the space. He was terrified. There was monstrous terror hitting his body and he could hear nothing. The only thing he felt that he was sinking down and down and down, but that was a transient thing. Since birds are naturally designed to fly, immediately his wings opened up in an autonomic manner and they spread outwards. The wind rushed under his feathers, touching his body, and he could feel that now he was cutting through the air. He was not falling headlong, he was actually soaring. So it was not scary anymore. He was confident and he was flying. He was just a little bit dizzy and tired. And soon this was the moment the family was waiting for, and soon the family comes along, the mother comes along, and the siblings come along, and the father comes along, and they start making different dives and curvates and soarings of flight, and they rejoice that the little seagull had finally taken his first flight. The seagull was absolutely stunned by this event, and he was now completely forgotten that there was a point that he couldn't actually fly. There was a point that he was too scared to make the first move, and now he was so confident. He was just flying and diving into soar curve, happily shrieking. He was now near the sea, flying straight over the ocean, and there was a greenish ocean water just below him. He did not know now what to do because all he could see was water. He was scared again for a little moment, and soon he sees his parents and sisters had landed down on the ocean floor, and they were moving around in the water, and they were calling him to come and sink down and sit down on the water with them. He tried to drop his legs and he tried to touch the green sea, and he felt that his legs were not floating anymore and he was sinking. So he was very scared. He tried to flap his wing back and fly away, but now he was so weak and so tired with hunger and with this extreme sternness exercise of his first flight that he just let go. So the moment he let go of his flapping of wings, he just settled down in water and he noticed his body was not sinking. In fact, he was floating. That was the second lesson that he learned that day, that seagulls could actually float on water and he was never going to sink if he dived in. The family again huddles around him happily. They are making happy bird sounds and they're shrilling and they are feeding him pieces of dogfish and they are celebrating his victory because the little seagull had made his first flight.